And so historically, over the last 10 to 15 years, most enterprises have been working towards what was commonly referred to as next best action. And in a next best action system, you're typically starting with all of your customers, all the first party data that you have about them. You're then building a series of machine learning models or predictive models in order to rate them on different things. So that might be a propensity model or a likelihood to respond model, a churn model, or even things like predicted customer lifetime value. And based on all of those different predictive models, you're then typically grouping customers into different segments. And from there, you need to figure out what is the best intervention for each one of those segments in order to drive your business goals. So that's usually where a marketing team will take over. They'll have hypotheses that they go and test, and then through a series of A/B testing, they try to figure out what is the best intervention for each one of those segments. And as they learn those insights, they start encoding those into rules or journeys in order to try to capitalize on those insights. This is a system that has driven a lot of value for a lot of enterprises over the last 10 to 15 years, but there are some limitations with this approach. Usually what happens is as you try to introduce more and more personalization, those segments get smaller and smaller, and you start moving towards microsegments. And also you're trying to experiment across multiple different dimensions. So you might run creative tests, but you also want to run tests to determine the best channel or the best frequency or the best timing. And it can be very complicated to try to manage all of those things in combination. So what we typically hear from enterprises is everything on the left-hand side of this page, the data science on the left-hand side of this page, is actually relatively straightforward. That's actually the easy part of this. The part that most enterprises find most frustrating is typically what's on the right-hand side, and just the operational complexity of managing all of these rules and all of these experiments in order to find the best intervention for each customer. So we do have a couple of common problems that we hear. One is that as people move towards next best action and a microsegment approach, typically it takes a really long time to answer questions. Typically, it's really hard to address all of the different levers that you can pull to find the best intervention for each customer, and understanding the interaction effects between those levers can be really challenging. It becomes very labor intensive for your marketing operations team if you have a lot of microsegments that you have to manage. And at the end of the day, you're still not personalizing at a one-to-one basis. You are, by definition, figuring out what is the best treatment for a population as opposed to each individual customer. And lastly, and maybe most importantly, it's really hard to know when you run an A/B test, are those results valid over time or in different contexts? So any business that deals with seasonality knows that a campaign run the week of Black Friday is going to be very different than a campaign that might be run in the middle of summer. Or if you're a media company, launching marketing campaigns around the time of like a new show release or the show finale is going to be very different from the off season, so to speak.